to week 3 of APUS. In order to access week 3, go to the left-hand side toolbar and click Lessons. Then it gives you the option for unit, and click Unit 2 because we're on period 2. And for the lessons, it gives you your learning targets, your main ideas, and your required reading. So the required reading for this week are American Pageant, Chapter 4 and 5, and read Chapter 3 of AMSCO. You have your period 2 exam this week, so it's multiple choice. It's the 50 multiple choice questions again, just similar to period 1. It does have a timer on it. If you do run out of time, it doesn't close you out. You can still continue working, but I do not allow you to retake the multiple choice. I allow corrections if you've submitted Chapter 2 and 3 reading guide. Then I will go back in and adjust your score. And by corrections, I mean that you put the answer you selected, the correct answer, and then you need to tell me what page you found the correct answer on in order to get credit back for that misanswered question. Then there's part 2, short answer, which is for T1, and T3 is for the multiple choice part of your exam. Historical thinking skills, you have a writing that you need to do about some resources I expose you to, and then like I said, the AMSCO Chapter 3 reading guide is due this week. So I have the American Pageant reading outline is the first thing you can access, which just gives you a brief overview of what's covered in the chapter readings. Then I have 2 PowerPoints which go in depth about each of the chapter readings, as well as then I have the reading guide for AMSCO Chapter 3, and I have the Chapter 3 PDF of AMSCO as well. So one of your assignments this week is on historical thinking skills. I've attached how to write a essay. I've also attached example of a DBQ, example of a long essay, example of some strategies you can use while writing an APUS. And then these 2 rubrics are important that you know what you're getting graded on, because there was a change made this summer to the AP curriculum. There's no more periodization and synthesis, so the rubric has been adjusted. So make sure you're aware of how you're getting assessed on your writing assignments. And if you've looked ahead on the PACE chart, you do have a long essay coming up. So for this assignment, paragraph 1 should be in your own words. Summarize what you learned from the intro AMSCO. So prior to Chapter 1, there was Roman numeral pages that went over what the AP exam tests you on, and some strategies for preparing for that test. So tell me some things you learned from reading that section. Paragraph 2, tell me some things you learned from looking at the AP History DBQ example and the long essay example. Paragraph 3, what are some of those writing tips that you were exposed to that you might use for your own writing? And then paragraph 4, describe your plan for organizing your notes. Are you just going to use the reading guides I've provided? Are you going to make notes next to the outlines? How are you going to organize your notes? You could also, in paragraph 4, write how you're going to do your writing assignments here in APUS based off of what you learned from the rubrics. And paragraph 5 should be describing your own essay writing skills. So how are you as a writer? What are some maybe things you learned in looking at the AP History LEQ rubric and DBQ rubric that you're going to incorporate into your writing? Then don't forget, for this assignment, you need to submit it as a document, docx, or PDF. Please do not give me a Google link. I'm going to take a moment to open up some of these examples. So here's the DBQ example. This is a past exam. It shows you how it's scored. Like I said, synthesis is no longer part of the DBQ. That's a new change from this summer. It shows you examples of what those documents are that you'll be asked to analyze on the exam. And if you keep scrolling down, it tells you what that prompt was based off of, what type of learning targets or learning objectives were used, and how they scored the essay. So it's important that you understand how the AP readers are going to score your exam. So if you keep scrolling, it gives you more information, more examples for this DBQ. Okay, the other example is a long essay, and the example I have is a periodization example, which, like I said, there's no more periodization, but this is one of the only ones they've released. So that gives you two examples of questions that students got to choose from in the past. Remember, you're presented with two, you pick one of the two, and then if you keep scrolling, just like the DBQ, it explains how they graded it and what they looked for. And once again, there's no periodization and there's no synthesis anymore on the AP exam. As well as I gave you some tips. So this is from another teacher, and they give some tips on the format of the exam, what is meant by causation, compare and contrast, and like I said, periodization is no longer a historical thinking skill. So I want you to understand when you're presented with the prompt, are they asking for causation? Are they asking for change in continuity? Are they asking for compare and contrast? Because that really determines how you are going to write your piece of writing. Then I attached our rubric. So this is the rubric I will be grading you on. So how was your thesis? How was your claim? How did you do contextualizing? So contextualizing is a broader historical context. So if the prompt is asking you about the Civil War, contextualization would be talking about other things that were going on during that time period besides for the Civil War. So things that were going on, other events that occurred during this time that were not related to the Civil War would be an example of contextualization. Or maybe you're talking about World War I, and then you're talking about women and their trying to get the right to vote. So you're talking about other things that are going on other than the war. So contextualization is giving the broad feel of what is happening in the country during that time period. Then I'm grading you on evidence. So how well did you support your thesis? Did you give me specifics? How well did you support your prompt? And then your analysis and your reasoning. So did you respond to the prompt using the correct historical thinking skills? So remember, the prompt is always going to ask you to make a comparison. So if it's having you do a comparison, did you create your thesis statement to illustrate that that's what you're going to do in your essay, is going to be comparing something? Causation is your thesis showing that there's a cause and effect relationship that you're going to be examining throughout your writing. Change in continuity. Can I tell in your thesis statement you're looking at how some topic has either changed or remained the same over time? Can I tell that from your thesis statement that you understood what the prompt was asking for? What historical thinking skill, and did you demonstrate your understanding? Okay, so that is the LEQ rubric. And then the DBQ rubric is similar in the way it's set up. So it has thesis, contextualization means the same thing with the DBQ. The difference between the LEQ and the DBQ is that you have to analyze documents. So what I always recommend students to do when analyzing documents for DBQ is first start with just making an outline of your essay. Don't look at the documents right away. Look at what you know about from judged by that prompt. So what do you all know? What events, what terms, topics do you know prior to looking at the documents? Then once you look at the documents, start organizing your thoughts. So what are other pieces of evidence besides for the documents that you can use to support your thesis? And use the documents to help support your thesis. Don't only use the documents to drive your essay. So from the documents, you need to analyze them. So you need to use at least 3 documents to address the topic of the prompt. And then you need to give me evidence beyond the documents. So support an argument in response to the prompt using at least 6 documents. So of the 6, you need to analyze 3, looking at the point of view, the historical context of the document. So that HIPAA that you've been doing at the end of the reading, for at least 3 of the 6, you need to analyze the historical evidence and analyze the point of view and the intended audience. And then the last part is analyzing the reasoning. So for at least 3 documents, how or why the document's point of view, purpose, historical situation, and or audience is relevant to an argument. So that's what I was getting at prior. And you demonstrated a complexity for understanding the historical development. So those are just your rubrics. Once you're done with your writing, like I said, submit it as a doc or docx or PDF. And then you have your period 2 multiple choice questions. So there's 50 of them. A timer is going to appear, but you can keep taking it beyond the timer. Then you have your short answer. I've had students already submit this prior. Make sure it's a Google link. Make sure I have editing right so I can comment right on the document. But students are forgetting to use this chart in answering A, B, and C. So for A, B, and C, you must include analyzing the chart and then supporting it with evidence from knowledge you know from the reading. So make sure you are using this chart, this graph, to support your answers for A, B, and C, and that you're labeling A, B, and C. I also provided you with the review game to help you for preparing for the multiple choice section of the AP exam. And also, if you haven't realized, I have an AP test help button right here. And it gives you some videos that break it down by topic. It also gives you Khan Academy, which has really good video lectures on information that we've covered in period 2. It has the answer key for the multiple choice of the AMSCO. And it gives you, if you click on period 2, I give you a PDF of key concepts that you should know for period 2 prior to taking the exam. So hopefully you find this helpful, and hopefully you guys all do really well in that period 2 exam. If you have any questions or need help, please feel free to email me.